Let's Win family. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. I'm very excited for tonight. We've done very many informational financial classes, training, but whenever we have a special guest and when it's my own family, it's very special. And I'm so delighted, excited. Thanksgiving was last weekend, and so I asked my sister, who's of the same correlation kind of sort as me as far as financially mindset, if she would come on and show the community how she was able to buy her investment properties utilizing her primary property here. It's something that we talk about here a lot at Let's Win Financial. And it's one thing, guys, to actually talk about it, but it's another thing to actually do it. And so she's a prime example. Now we're in a great opportunity where the environment is to be able to, with high interest rates, right? We don't want to necessarily refinance our primary property when it comes to cash out refinance, but the next part of it is being able to utilize what she's talking about tonight. So, without further ado, Shanae, if you don't mind, come on to the Let's Win Financial community. And I'm so excited to have you on, sis, tonight to come in and give the Let's Win Financial community some good information tonight. We want to feed them, right? So we want to not only feed them tonight, but we want to feed them a lifetime, because what you have seen as far as when you bought your investment properties, not only does it give you monthly cash flow, but it's giving you equity, it's giving you tax write-offs, and at the same time, it's building generational wealth, as we know, for your son, and being able to use money that you're making from your tenants, right, to be able to open up a Roth IRA, invest into your son here. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have my sister here, my pretty sister, not just my sister, my pretty sister, my big sister, Shanae Brown Intercept. Shanae, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be on the call tonight. I'm so happy that you all are joining the call tonight. I'm hoping and praying that I can give you some good gems. That way you can do what I did. I am Coach B Financial. I do have my own financial company where I help people with their personal finance. And I just want to see you all succeed. Sherwin and I, we are passionate about helping people. And it is our hopes and dreams that you can be in a good financial situation, not just for your right now, but for your future. So tonight I'm going to come on here and I'm going to talk to you and show you and kind of give you some numbers on what I did in order to purchase property. And also explain to you that it doesn't, so most people think you have to have a lot of money to do some things, right? But for us, my husband and I, we are just regular, average people that had a vision, had a goal, and we went for it. But it does take blood, sweat, and tears to do this. And so I was sitting at my job in accounting at a bank, and I was just telling myself, I don't want to solve other people's problems, and I want to solve my own. So I started thinking, what can I do to better my life, my family life, my husband life? And so my wheels start turning, and I've always wanted to buy property. And even as a young kid, I wanted to probably buy property, but didn't understand how that works. Um, Even when I went to college, I did not want to rent. I actually wanted to um, own something because owning something, it did something for me. And I owned a mobile home, and I had roommates, and I charged my roommates. So I was thinking this way even at 19 years old, but didn't understand at the time that was house hacking. I don't even think that was a word back then, but that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. So as I lived in a mobile home, I charged rent, and then it came a point where people was like, well, when are you planning on moving? And how long you planning on being in this? I was like, well, until you start paying my bills, then I'll move. But then no one helped me pay my bills. So then I was able to purchase my home. So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint and we're going to go through some numbers so we can see exactly what I did do. And if you have, when you have at the end of my presentations, if you have questions, I'll be happy to assist. All right. So the first slide that you see is Sherwin and I, right? And on this slide, I'm so proud of him. He is my baby brother. And so he has done amazing things. And so I'm so proud of him. And then also one of the things we do, we have conversations. Even before we started our companies, we used to talk about money. And I believe that, that helped push and drive both of us. And the conversations we would have would be with our dad. So I believe that people should have more conversations about money when they're out with each other and when they are, doing things, because what I've learned is most people that hang out, they talk about everything besides getting their money right. So I love talking about money. My mom would tell me, is there anything else you can talk about? And I had to learn to say, okay, maybe I should talk about other things. But as of right now, I love talking about money. So let's get into it. Tonight, we're going to see how I was able to get a HELOC and purchase my rental properties. A lot of times people hear the word HELOC and don't know what it actually is. So we're going to discuss it tonight. All right, so give me just 1 second. All right, so here we go. So how to buy real estate without using your own money, because most people don't even have a whole lot of money to even start to buy real estate. So one of the things that I stumbled across was buying it, doing it through a HELOC. All right. So what does HELOC mean? It is a home equity line of credit. And when you see that, you get nervous. You're like, I don't know about that. And so I was nervous. I was actually nervous. And then I had a go-to person, and I'm going to mention who my go-to person was, and maybe more than one time, but my go-to person was my dad. So I came across a property and I had to go to HELOC route. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I talked to my dad and he was like, you already good with your money. Have you ever missed a payment? And I was like, no. And after he said that, I went for it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go that route. So I went that route. And I'm gonna give you the information of what they're gonna need for you to purchase a HELOC. All right. So what does the loan to value mean? If you pay down the amount of your primary home is at 200,000 and the appraiser come back that your home is worth 300,000, then you have $100,000 in equity. The bank is willing to give you 80% of the equity. The amount of the $100 is $80,000. So this is kind of like an example of what they do. So if your home value is 100,000, the bank is not going to give you 100,000. Some banks do different percentage amounts, but the bank that I went to did 80%. So 80% of 100,000 is $80,000. And this is only an example. I just want you all to see how it works. Yes. So what does the bank, what will they need from you? What is the line of credit? What do they need in order to give you this money? They're gonna need your appraisal. They'll do an appraisal amount. They'll do a good credit score, 2 months of pay stubs, and a declaration of insurance. And you can get that from your insurance company. So that's not a problem. 2 months of pay stubs. They also want you to work on your job at least 2 years. With a good credit score, I always say don't get ready, be ready. Because when opportunity comes, you want to be ready at that moment. And then the appraisal, you just need to have what, 450, 550, or whatever they're asking for at the time for the appraisal. So those are some of the documents you would need. And let me tell you, when I first went in there to the bank, they told me what I needed and they told me they'll have the money in 30 days. And I was just like, it's just that simple. It's just that easy. I was like, this is too good to be true, but okay. All right. So that's what I gave the bank, and they, in 30 days, they had money readily available for me. So I'm going to go through the steps of that information when I come back to it. All right. So I am missing some information on here, but that's okay. Not sure why, but you have to pivot, right? So I'm going to, if you want to write this down, or maybe I can email it to you afterwards, I'll be happy to do that. But I'm not sure, like I say, what happened to the numbers, but I'm going to go over the information with you. So in 2010, I purchased my home for $200,000. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,300 square foot home. It's on 1 acre lot. If you see in the picture right next to it, there's a home right next to it. And that home is my parents' home. So they're my neighbors. So Shawen talked about coming home for Thanksgiving. We're next door neighbors, so we go back and forth from each other's houses. When I built my home, there was nothing but trees there. And I always wonder who would be my neighbor, not knowing it would be my parents. And it actually has been a blessing. In 2016, let me tell you how powerful home ownership is, right? It can make you do some things. It can help you build wealth. In 2016, I refied my home to a 15-year. I was at a 30-year when I first purchased my home in 2010 for $200,000. At the time, that interest rate was 5.1% in 2010. And then the interest rate went to 2.87 in 2016. So I was like, oh, let me refi, let me get this 15-year payment, mortgage payment, because I want to get this house paid off, right? I want to be young and I want to go and continue to do. Now I do, but I do it on a budget. And let me say this, a budget has allowed me to purchase a home. A budget has allowed me to do so many things in life. And I want you all to understand how important a budget is. It gives me the vision to see further than what I could dream of. And it still allows me to invest and grow my money. People feel like it's a restriction. And I feel like it gives you control of your life. And so what's so funny about this is my family, so when I was getting out of debt, they laughed, but they was cheering for me at the same time. And now they get it because I'm on the other side of having no debt, no car payment, just houses, right? That's what I believe in. I push that, and that's my goal, to help people see that there's a bigger picture than your right now. All right. So in 2016, I refinanced, got a 2.87 interest rate. The home value in 2019 was 255,000, and in 2021 it was 311,000, and today it is at 382,000. Even though you cannot see this information, I believe in visuality, And I wish you could, because it would make even more sense. But like I say, I'll be happy to email you this information that I had for you tonight. So as of today, the home value is at $382,000. And that's what, 14 years I've been in a home. I bought it in 2010. So home ownership is important. And I would love to see each one of you be homeowners. So with this home, I was able to purchase my first property in 2019. In 2019, I bought this home for $37,000. How did I go about doing that? What did I do? So it was a seed planted in me. I knew this was something I wanted to do. So I would ride around looking at houses and said, Lord, this is what I want to do. And as I rode around looking at houses, I just kept riding. And then I would run into other investors. And I ran into another investor, and we just have conversations. He said, keep riding. And then he says, if I come across something and I'm not ready to buy, I'll let you know. So that's why it's good to network. As I would ride, I also would look on Zillow. And one Saturday morning on Zillow, there was this home. And I want to say it was probably at 50,000 back then. And I was like, that's too high for me. And it kept going down, and it kept going down, and it kept going down. And I kept looking. And at the time, people wasn't just, if you see that home, you better buy it that same day, because they're going to get it. And that's when I had the conversation with my dad, and he says, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it. Now, you cannot really find a house for $37,000 in today's market. But I was determined to buy that house. I'm very competitive. So if my dad said it, I'm like, I'm going to get this house. Now, let me say this. When I purchased this house, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew this was my baby. Also, when I look at purchasing houses, I look at them as luxury vehicles. So you can buy a vehicle for this price of this house right now. Like 37,000 probably can get you a Camry, a Toyota Camry or something else. But I call them luxury vehicles. That's what I think of. Instead of purchasing cars, I like purchasing houses. So I get the house, and when I get the house, I take my kids, and because I want them to learn too as we're purchasing things, and I teach them and I talk to them. My youngest son at the time, he might have been, let's see, maybe 11, 12 possibly. And he was like, Ma, what are we doing? Because inside it needed some work. It needed some renovation. But I just said, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it. And we did it. We did it. And I also prayed for the right tenant, because I hear stories about tenants all the time about they'll tear your stuff up, or they don't, you don't want to be bothered with toilets and plumbing and all that. But if you put the right people and the right systems and God in place, it all works out for you. Was this easy? No, it wasn't. But remember what I said, I'm on someone else's job trying to solve their problems. I'd rather be my own owner and solve my own problems. And so it's actually been a blessing. My tenant is a blessing. She's been there for 4 years. We have like a relationship. I'm like, wait, I'm the landlord, you're the tenant. So it's been good. My first tenant has been good. And she is on HUD. So I'm blessing her. She's blessing me. She's never late. She always pays on time. HUD is going to have that check in your bank account on the first of the month. So how did I do this? So once I purchased the home, I went to, I went to the bank. Credit score, when I say don't get ready, be ready. I went to the bank. They told me They said, your house is valued at this, we can give you $50,000. I was like, you getting ready to write me a check for $50,000 and I can do anything with $50,000? And they was like, yes, you can do anything with $50,000. So for me, I knew it was for this house and nothing else. And that's one of the things about a HELOC. It's almost like a huge credit card. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or anything. The interest rate, it does varies. It does, that's a con, but you have to be disciplined. And if you're not, this is not for you. But if you are, this is for you. Okay, and so I want to run through these numbers. So I purchased it for $37,000 in 2019. They gave me $50,000. I was able to use the money to renovate. And also, let me say this: you need some savings. You need your own cushion. I don't want you to go in there and you just get the 50,000 and don't have any cushion. I would suggest have some cushion of savings of emergency fund. All right. This home is 1,600 square foot. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The home value in 2021, in 2 years, it went from 37,000 to 130,000. 2024, this home valued is at $88,000 as of today. So imagine purchasing at 37,000 and now it is valued at 188,000. My rental property, rental income, excuse me, in 2021 was $1,100. That's how much I was charging for rent in 2021. In 2023, I went up on the rent to $1,500 a month. If you look on Zillow today, I can charge more. But she's such a good tenant. I'm not going to increase it right now, but she does know that it will increase over time. And I do give her a head notice. I don't just say, hey, it's about to go up. You know, I give her some time to let it sink in, because when your rent go up, man, oh man, it's expensive. And then the insurance that I pay is $1,400 a year and taxes is $1,917. So that has gone up. And instead of me taking on that insurance and taxes, it can go towards the tenants with the increase in rent. Okay, let's go to the second property. How did I attain that? So once I went through the first process, I was like, okay, I get how this works. I was like, let me go back to the bank and see if I can get some more money. And I went back to the bank and they did another appraisal. And the good thing about them doing an appraisal, they don't have to come inside your house. They come out, they do like a drive-by. They do get out, they walk around just to kind of make sure everything is working. You know, they look at the neighborhood to see the value of the neighborhood, and they gave me more money. And I was like, you giving me more money? I was like, okay. So the reason why I went ahead and got more is because I knew that wanted another property. So that money just sat there. You don't have to use the money until you need the money. That's the good thing about a HELOC. You don't have to use it until you actually need it. But when another property popped up, I wanted to be ready. I didn't want to have to be like, oh, let me go to the bank to see if I can I didn't want to do that. So the money just sat there because I didn't need it. So I didn't want to touch it because you got to pay it back. And then what happened, I started riding around again. And there was a house that I was watching. It needed some work. No one lived in it. And I was riding around. And then one day I rode around, and across the street from the house that I was looking at, this house was for sale. And OMG, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I pulled up to the house. They had a for sale sign. I took a picture of the number. I called the guy and he told me the information. And I was like, okay. Then I just happened to go and visit my parents in Pensacola. And I was like, Dad, I was like, I can't sleep. And I told him the situation. He was like, well, if that's what you want, then you need to call the guy. So I called the guy while I was there. And lo and behold, the guy said, ma'am, do you want this house? I said, yes. And he said, okay, I'm going to help you get it. This is what the realtor said. I was like, oh, y'all do that? And so he said, give me a number and I'll tell you if it's enough. And I was like, okay. And I gave him a number. He was like, no, somebody else got that number. He knew to go a little bit higher, but it wasn't to the point where it was high enough to where it was like $2,000 more. I was like, okay. And he said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to have an open house, but I'm giving you this house, but I still need to have the open house. You're going to see people in the house that's walking around looking at the house, but the house is yours. So I go in the house and he tells me that the tenant is still in the house. So she's still in the house. And I walk in, she doesn't give me a nice welcoming. But before I went in, I told my husband, I want this house. He was like, no, we need to go look at it. I was like, so we go inside. And when we walked inside, my husband said, write the check. So the money was already available. We just had to write the check. And I asked the realtor, how did you know that I had the money to buy it? You just went off word of mouth. He said it was something about you that I knew that I didn't have to worry. He says, and in the end, once we finish, he says, I wish I had more people like you that was ready. So that's one of my slogans. Don't get ready, be ready. All right. And so when I purchased the house, this house was $51,000. The HELOC that I was able to receive that was sitting in the bank was 78,000. This house is 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1,074 square feet. The home value in 2021 was $60,000. And the home value today is $98,000. So within a couple years, the house is almost double of what I purchased the house for. The rental income when she was living there was in 2021 was $650. I was like, oh my goodness. But I was like, okay. And I thought about it like this. She was an older lady. So I was like, gosh, she's like my mother, and she's been there 10 years. And I can't go up on the rent. And it was tussling with them. And she wasn't pleasant. And she made me feel like I was the tenant and she was the landlord. And then she was also upset I purchased the home. And I said the sign was in the yard. She could have purchased it, but we didn't get into all of that. I just let her stay mad because it wasn't my fault. And I went up on the rent like to $700, so $50 more. And I just said, it's still not enough. This is not making sense. So 2 years went by, and in 2023, I sent her a certified letter saying I'm going up on the rent. She called me and she said, I can't afford it. And I said, I'm so sorry. I had to learn that somebody is not going to be happy and it's not going to be me. So, because I wasn't happy that she was paying that. So now she's not happy and I am. And in 2023, I had new tenants and I charged them $1,250 a month and another HUD tenant. So I'm guaranteed my rent on the first of the month, all because of a HELOC. The insurance on this home is $1,100 a year. The taxes is $1,142 a year. So that concludes how I went about purchasing the HELOC. Any questions on the HELOC?
Speak. Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Um, how you doing? I'm glad to get this information. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about something like this. So you said we need to have appraisal, credit score, 2-month pay stub, and then you said insurance. What was the fourth?
It was a declaration. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. It is a declaration of your primary home insurance. And you can get that from your insurance company.
Okay, a declaration.
A declaration of your primary insurance. And you need to be on your job 2 years too.
Got that. Job 2 years. Got it. Got all that. That is good. And here's my next question. Do you go through the bank that you have your loan through, or do you go through just your regular bank that you're a part of?
No, I went through a whole different bank, a totally different bank. It was shocking.
Exactly.
My realtor friend, she was like, do this bank, try this bank. And because she had relationship with them. So I did. I went through them. And it was at the time, it was BB&T. Now it's Truist Bank. So you don't have to go through your own bank.
Okay. And not the bank that you have the loan for the house, the mortgage on.
No, and that's through Wells Fargo.
Nice. That's my two questions. Really
Okay.
nice hearing from you, and I appreciate the information.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.
So
Hi, how you doing? This is Anthony Moore here.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Anthony Moore.
How you doing?
I'm good
Um,
again.
Okay. Question one, probably the same question, but you say you did the HELOC on your primary home, the first HELOC. Now, the second HELOC, was it also on your primary home, or was it on the second?
No, it was on the primary home because the value of my home had went up. And so they just reran the numbers and they saw what the 80% could do. And so it was basically the 50 plus the 78. And at the time, I guess that's 128. And so that's 80% of the value of my home, which was at 314 at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now I can go back again and do and get some more.
On your primary home as well?
I could keep
Okay.
going back on my primary home. Yes, if I
Okay.
wanted to. I'm always looking. Things pop up. So if you look every day, something may pop up, but now you cannot be like, well, let me think about it, because
You
if
got to be
think
ready.
about it, don't
And
get
that's
ready.
the second question I was going to ask. When you when you get a HELOC, like you said, you don't have to spend it, correct?
Correct.
You can just sit there and you for how long is that good for though?
Well, they
Do you
do
know?
have different terms, right? So the terms on my home right now is 10 years. So I'm gonna have these homes paid off by 2031. That's my goal. So my goal is to have all three of my homes paid off by 31. So I'm
Okay.
always looking at my numbers. And these homes, after I ran my numbers, I should be profiting $2,000 a month, because I'm gonna do maintenance, taxes, and insurance.
Right.
So that'll be $2,000 that I don't have to work for. And then if I pass away, my boys can either sell them or they get $1,000 a piece. And
Right.
that I'm still young. They're still young. So maybe there'll be
Yeah,
more.
there's
than
one in the
1,000.
background. Okay. So I think that's it.
Okay.
And thank you for this information. This is valuable, very valuable.
Oh, you're welcome. And I look at it as, before I did this, I didn't know anything about it, right? And so we want to pass out information that may be challenging or difficult. And once you go through it, you're like, it's not as hard as you think it is. So yes.
Good evening, Shauna. This is Cassandra Ford Carwise.
Hi.
I don't know if you remember me.
Yes, I do.
But this is great information. I'm new to the Les Wynn family, but I'm excited and I've enjoyed conversations I've had thus far with your brother. But my question for you is, so how do you pay back the HELOC loan? Is that through the mortgage that you're charging the tenants?
Yes, good
Okay.
question. Good question. So basically, I mean, you can do it a couple ways, but I'm doing it a little bit different because I want to go ahead and get it paid off. So you pay back, I would pay back to Truist, right? So I kind of have them separate. I have my mortgage separate and I have my HELOC separate. And once you pay back the mortgage, and then you could set aside your taxes and insurance and your maintenance, then what's left could be your cash flow. meaning it could be 300, it could be 250, it could be 400. So that's the reason one of the reasons you purchase property is to make money, right? So your cash flow will be, I'll just say an average of 300. So each house could be 300, 300. So that's 600 extra dollars you have a month. So like I say, I have my mortgage separate and my HELOC separate. They're two separate accounts, and I could either cash flow 600 a month, or I could put that 600 towards the principal and keep it moving because I want these houses paid off. So right now, honestly, I don't even profit off the houses because I want them paid off. I could if I wanted to, but I don't. But yes, good question. Good question. I hope I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, you did. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi, Shauna. This is Shanice. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm actually like multitasking.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this information. If you were to do this all over again, and let's say your first property, the trailer home, was going to be your investment property, what would you do different today?
So you mean if I had my mobile home still?
Yeah, like let's say you like at the beginning before
Okay.
investing.
Okay,
like,
so that's
and
funny.
you know a little bit more now. What would you do today?
That's a good question. Very good question. So with my mobile home, it was in a mobile home park, and I was still wanting to rent it. I wanted to rent it out, and that park wouldn't allow that. So that's why I had to sell it and move it. And it costs to move, and I didn't want to pay the cost to move. So I sold it and that person moved it. But if I could redo what I did, I would love to have that mobile home on some land. I probably would still have that mobile home. And another thing about that, when I was living in that mobile home, I had to pay a lot fee, and I was like, man, I'm throwing away money. I was like, this is money for land. But the mobile home was already in the park when I purchased it. So that's why I sold the mobile home, is because I couldn't rent it in the mobile home park, and I did not want to move it. It probably cost between, at that time, maybe 7,000 to 9,000 to move it. And that's just something I didn't want to do. But if I could do it different, I would have it on land, and I'll probably still be renting it out today.
Got you. Thank you. And then at that point, you wouldn't have the HELOC, so then you'll just use like your first time home buyers. Like, what type of route would you go if that was your first property?
Okay, so the mobile home actually was in my dad's name. So me being a first-time home buyer, and I still wasn't a first-time home buyer because my husband, he had a house in his name. So I had to go the rural development route, which means USDA loan. And I didn't even know that that loan exists, because all they talk about is the FHA loan and the conventional loan. So my realtor at the time was like, hey, we got to figure something out, because I didn't want to put 20% down on the conventional. So she said, hey, there's a USDA loan, and that's a rural development loan. So I was able to go that route, and that's how I was able to purchase my home. And when you purchase a home with USDA, you don't have to put a down payment on a home.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Great questions. Great questions.
Hey, Shanae. So this is very, very good information. So one thing I want to also just make the community aware of, right? There's two different type of refinances. The cash out refinance, to where that's changing your overall primary loan terms, whereas what Shanae is talking about tonight, this does not affect your primary home. So if you got a low interest rate when you got refinance in 2020, where it may be a 2% or 3%, this does not impact your primary home interest rate. This is something like what Shanae mentioned a little bit earlier. This is totally separate from your primary interest rate. So it's almost like a credit card in itself. So I just want to make note of that for the community. There's two different type of refinances that you can do here. All right. Shanae, any more information to add?
Yeah, let me make sure that I'm clear on this also. When you do the HELOC, I'm not big on interest rates going up and down. So not a fan of it, but on this one, it does go up and down. But if you are at like a 23% in your credit cards, and right now it's at 9.5%, maybe that will work for you. But I am a fixed rate type of girl, but you got to take some risks. And I'm taking some risks, but it's working out for me. And I mainly use it for vehicles for my properties. And that's it. The money looks good, and you're like, oh, I can take a vacation, I can do this, I can do that. But these homes are paying that off, that loan off. So it's not coming from me, it's coming from my tenants.
And Snake, so also too, right? The numbers, everything sounds good. Investment property sounds good. How do you feel about working with tenants with phone calls and things like that? How's your experience been with that?
My tenants are great. So let me say this, when you treat your tenants right and you have good tenants, they call me Miss Shanae. I'm like, you don't have to call me Miss Shanae, but I take care of them. And I do have a good maintenance guy. I actually don't even go over there. They call me or they text me, Miss Shanae, this is the problem. I said, okay. And then the next day I'm texting the guy and he's out there within 2 days. And they even say I'm a blessing to them. So but like I said before, it's your work. You're the owners. And it's not as bad as you think it is once you have your system set up in place. So yeah, my tenants are amazing. They only call me for things that are truly wrong. Also, one of the things, how do you get tenants? One of the things, I put it on Zillow for 30 days. I look at their credit. I even give advice on their credit, and I tell them, you're not gonna make it, but this is what I can do as advice. But what I do is, if I get an applicant, I go to where they live. So we have a sit down and we have a conversation, and I tell them what I'm wanting and what I'm looking for. And one of my second tenant, once she moved in, she says, I never had anybody come, landlord come to where I live. I said, well, I want to see how you're living now, because I don't want you moving into my place, tearing my place up. So, that's one of the little tidbits you can do. They don't know you coming to interview them and see how they live. But it worked out. And I told her, I said, that's why I came. I wanted to make sure you living right, not living right, but living clean.
Snake, we do have a question here in the chat. I want to bring over here to you. It says, it is important to have a tenant already in properties purchased. If not, what type of cushion is needed until someone is in place?
Very good question. That's why I said you need to have some cushion. Yes, you don't have to use your own money. You can take that money that from the HELOC, but you got to pay it back. So that's why I'm big about budgeting. I'm big about having an emergency fund, because I already had that in place. Minimum, I'm gonna be honest, minimum you want to have 10,000 just in case some pop off and you need to pull money from somewhere else. Because this is not for the faint at heart. Now, 10 is probably a lot to say, but I'd rather for you have enough. And then what if you have an emergency, right? So you don't want to be too strapped to the point where you're struggling to do this. Because when I first bought the property, we could do it, but it's a strain. I ain't gonna say a strain, but it's work to the point where my husband's like, let's sell it. I was like, no, this is my baby. And my dad said, just keep going. You need to hear something. Keep going. Because once you get to the other side, then once you have them set up and everything is in place, then you're good. But it is blood, sweat, and tears. And let me say this, my youngest son, he says, Ma, I was blind, but now I can see. And he said that. I was shocked to hear that. And this was, like I say, at probably 10 to 12 years old. He saw the whole process. And it's not a HGT process either.
Now, Shanae, how does it work when you do get the HELOC? So the bank, I think you say maybe gave you $50,000. what if you don't necessarily use the money right off the bat to go buy a property? When does it come to the point where you have to start paying back the HELOC once they issue it to you?
There's no point. You have a 10-year term. They have 10, I want to say 15, 20. Long as you don't use it, you're not penalized at all. And you only use what you need. And that's what I would do. But there's no like, oh, if you don't use it by this year, we're gonna penalize you. It's not like that at all.
So let me ask you this question here: if you have 50,000, is the interest rate on the 50,000, or is it on what you use?
It is on what you use.
Good.
It is on what you use. Good question.
Sinead, this is Cassandra again, another question. So I think one of the houses you said that you had to do some work. So, but I think it was the one that was 37,000 and
Mhm.
you got 50,000 in the HELOC. So what did you use to do the renovations? Did you use the remainder of the HELOC to do the renovations or did you?
So good question. So I'll use the remainder of the 50 plus Home Depot. I use Home Depot credit card, and I had some that what you heard me say cushion. I had the cushion money to make sure that it's not affecting my household, but the cushion money, which was the emergency money, I could use that with no problem. So great question. So yes, Cassandra, I did have to use some of my money because it was a renovation. But the second one, it was already good to go. So yes.
Sinead, tonight has also been a very inspiring. Here, Lamoya just indicated this got me excited. So happy to be finally part of the landlord club. She's recently gone through process here of renting out her home, and so Lamoya, we're excited for you. And so,
Congratulations.
absolutely. And Sinead, we haven't really touched on this here, but part of this here, right? Your tenants are HUD.
Yes.
Uh, do you want to maybe speak a little bit and inform the community just from a maybe 2-3 minute overview what exactly is HUD and how that worked for your tenants?
Yes. So HUD is where the tenants are, I guess, on a subsidized account or payment or whatever. We're low income and HUD. So what happens is when I have the houses ready, the HUD tenants, they're looking for houses, right? They're looking to move out, maybe the projects or somewhere else. And they will call you. You can get yourself on a HUD list with the HUD people. You get yourself on a HUD list and they'll call, hey, do you have a home? I get calls probably lately this month of December, I probably got 2 to 3 calls. Do you have any houses available? So they're looking for houses. But some of them are not calling, some of them are riding around. When I put it on Zillow, they'll say I'm a HUD tenant. Now you can't put on there talking about HUD only now. Don't do that. But you're just going through the applications and they'll say, I'm on HUD. And then you go through the process. Now HUD gives them a packet to give to you. And they'll say, well, I have 30 days. Well, that's not your problem. Your problem is finding the right tenant. So you don't have to be in a rush. So don't get a tenant just because they say they have 30 days and then they can pay that voucher. The more, I guess, kids they have, the more HUD gives them. Also the market value with HUD. And so you fill it out once you're comfortable with that potential tenant. And like I said, you interview them. You also call HUD, let them know, hey, I am wanting to move this tenant in. And sometimes that 30 days may be up, but long as HUD know that this tenant is moving into your place, then their 30 days goes into maybe 2 months, 60 days. But then you have to fill out the paperwork. You have to fill out it's a lot of paperwork, but it's worth it. Just fill it out, submit it to HUD. HUD comes out and do a walk around your homes because you have to have this and you have to have that. And if you don't have this, they tell you need to fix this and take that and all kind of stuff. So it is a process. And then also they do home inspections maybe every year, every 2 years. And if something's not right, like I had 2 eyes out at one of my properties, I had to get that fixed in 30 days at HUD.
Any more questions? Guys, I would just tell you this here.
I have a question, Sherwin.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to know, actually, it just slipped me, but I think I wanted to know, for like your HUD tenants, have you ever had like one of your HUD tenants that wanted to actually buy your property? Because I found out that HUD has a program now where they're actually helping the tenants to purchase homes. Like they put them in a program where they take like a certain, I guess, amount of the rent cost to put into like a savings or something for them to help them purchase a home. Have you ever had someone do that with one of your properties?
No, I haven't, but I'm beginning to hear a little bit about that. But my first tenant, she said that when she first moved in, she was like, "Hey, can I buy your property?" And I was like, "No," but I am starting to hear a little bit more about that. But I'm not in the process of selling my home. And she asks about she's been there 4 years. She asks every 2 years, let me know when you're ready to sell the home. I don't believe she's going anywhere because she was probably in the projects for probably about 18 years because HUD has a waiting list. And so I don't believe she's going to move anytime soon. She's probably going to wait it out and see if I ever want to sell it.
Okay, and then I have one more question for you. How how does the process work? Like your when you do your increases on your rent, have you ever requested a rent increase from HUD? Because I know that they go up like sometimes every year. So do you request it from HUD or from your tenant?
From HUD. So I
Okay.
tell my tenants, hey, I'm getting ready to go up, just kind of a courtesy.
Hmm.
Then I notify HUD, hey, I would like to go up on my tenant. They give me paperwork. HUD sends me paperwork. I fill out how much I want to go up on it. And I went up from 11 to 15 and HUD even asked me, she said, that's a lot. Do you think, is that going to be okay with your tenant? So they even asked me, how do you feel? And I said, well, I talked to her already, my tenant, and she is okay with it. So so once you know you're going up, you can call HUD to let them know, hey, I want to go up. So what HUD does, they go and look at the market value. Just because you want to go up doesn't mean they're gonna be like, oh, okay, this is the amount that you want to go up, then
Hmm.
we're gonna do it. But HUD, the lady said, let me go see what the market value is. She came back, she was like, okay, the $1,500 works a month. And now it's even more, but like I said, I'm not going to encourage
Yeah.
my tenant that way. But yeah, so you
Awesome.
have to do
Thank you.
everything. You're welcome. You have to do everything through HUD. I mean, you can be like, hey, I'm about to go up on you and go up on a tenant, but no, you need to go through HUD.
Hey, Sinead, this has definitely been awesome. I would like that if you can, in the chat, if you can share your contact information on your business. If anyone have any additional questions, how they can contact you. I mean, guys, we with real estate, I want you guys to write this down here. Real estate is ideal. And reason why it's ideal, I want you guys to write down these 5 reasons where I'm gonna give you this analogy for idea. All right. So if you got a pen, if you got a piece of paper, I want you to write this down. Idea. The I in idea will be income. That's what Sinead talked about tonight as far as getting cash flow on her particular property. The D in idea will be depreciation. When you buy investment properties, you have a lot of tax advantages when it comes to it. So you can actually depreciate your property for 27 and a half years. That's one of your greatest tax advantages that you can get. E in idea is you call your equity. Now, what Shanae mentioned tonight, going to buy a property for $37,000. Now it's worth $180,000. It's a lot of equity into that. Same way with the A in appreciation, right? Those property values continue to increase over time. So A is for appreciation idea. And guys, L is leverage. She's able to leverage her primary house and now go and buy these two investment properties. And the L leads to what you call generational wealth building, because the word that I want you guys to write for 2025 for the Let's Win financial community is called scaling up. What Shanae has been able to do is, so she's been able to use her primary home. This is how powerful this is, guys. This is a wealth gem. It's not only just buying the investment properties and getting the cash flow and getting the equity, but using the leverage. And now she's been able to scale up. And guess what she's been able to do? She's been able now to create generational wealth building. Because she talked about there's a son of hers that when she first started buying these properties in 11 and 12 years old. So she takes some of these rents from these particular tenants. And what we've been able to do with her is open up what you call a Roth IRA, a KISS Roth IRA account. So now these tenants now is putting money into the child's investment account because now the child is being put on payroll. The child now have earned income because the child is now an employee of Shanae's real estate business. See, guys, that's what I'm talking about as far as we could be on these reality shows watching what Atlanta Housewives is doing, California Housewives is doing. But when you get in these right rooms and you get in these right circles and you get and understand the financial education and the literacy, I literally watched my nephew when I was in Thanksgiving play basketball, and to see his accounts almost hit a milestone because Shanae took the chance to buy those investment properties. Shanae took the chance to get the financial education information and open up a Roth IRA account for her son and contact me and say, Sherwin, what this should be invested in? And guess what? The money from the tenants is in this Roth IRA account and it's now growing. And not only is she able to do that, but it's also what she's able to pay her son. Guess what it's able to do? It's giving her tax write-off. Because the IRS, that's one of the greatest tax deductions that you can get for a business owner would be to put your child on payroll. And so that's what she's doing. All simply because Shanae took a chance. And so, Shanae, I don't want to steal your thunder tonight, but I would just be honest with you. You and the HELOCs have certainly done very well for you and your particular family. And it's been a blessing here to the Let's Win financial community for sharing this information here tonight. And so we love real estate. The Rileys love real estate. And it all started from our dad because we was exposed to real estate from him. And so, guys, that's why I tell you all the time, you plant the seed, your kids are watching you. And so my kids, every time we go see our properties, I make sure that they're with me because I make sure that I want to expose my kids. With that, Shanae, can you give us one final word of encouragement to the Let's Win financial community?
Yes. First, thank you for allowing me to come on here tonight. I'm so happy to be on the Let's Win Financial call and be with the community and talk to some of the people that I've known all my life. And second, just know that you can do it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And let me say this. It doesn't take a lot. It's just knowing what to do and also hanging around people that have gone that direction so they can give you direction. Because what I believe Sherwin and I are wanting to do is if we're up here, we want you to come where we are, right? So we can go up together. So I thank you so much for the opportunity. And anytime you would love for me to come on, because I talk about credit, I talk about budgeting, I talk about debt management. And so I keep my debts very low. My husband and our truck and car are paid off. We love having no debt.
Shanae,
And
you got to give them this right here. You got to give them this. Tell them what type of car you drive and how many miles you got on. This is a wealth gym, guys.
I have a 2014 Camry. And I paid it off in 3 years. So I've been without a car payment for about 7 years. Because for me, car payments or investment payments. So I'd rather put it in my investment account than put it on a car. Like I said, I love luxury houses, not luxury cars. And it has 236,000 miles on it, and it's still riding good, and I'm so excited.
It looked good. It even looked better because it's been paid off.
It's been
So
paid off.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Shanae, thank you again for joining. We appreciate you. And so we pray that God continue to bless you in this avenue and increase in your household and the Let's Win financial community. Thank you for
I'm
being-
sorry, I
Go
do apologize. One more thing, debt to income. They may calculate that when you go in there to purchase. I can't remember off the bat, but I have a low debt to income, so I really don't be worried about it when I go in there. But just in case, they may calculate debt to income. I can't remember, but I'm just wanting to throw that out there to you because you go in there and they be like, your debt to income is too high. They're gonna be like, you didn't tell us that on the meeting. So I'm just mentioning that. Know your debt to income before you walk in there.
Absolutely. Well, Shanae, thank you again. Thank you, Let's Win Financial members, for being part of this particular process here. As Angel says, yes, they do debt to income ratio. Generally, it's below about 40% of what they want you to be on your debt to income. But that's for another session, another day. But Shanae, great session. We appreciate you. We love you. Let's Win Financial community, guys. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. Be well, be blessed, and as always, let's continue to win. All right, guys, have a great week.